of my cooking, and specifically hazelnuts and filiberts and chestnuts.
Hey everybody,
Chestnuts are that, like,
happy
softer,
Thanksgiving again.
Kind of almost
Apparently,
texture.
this show is back on in another episode. So we're going to listen again and see what advice they give. I'll correct it as needed.
Wild rice with roasted apples and chestnuts, and oftentimes the leftovers would get repurposed into cabbage rolls. So we would do, like, she'd blanch the cabbage leaves and then fill it with the wild rice and chestnut mixture, and then have some sort of, like, really tangy applesauce served with it, like, after Thanksgiving. So something like that. I mean, obviously putting nuts into a stuffing makes a ton of sense. I really like brining nuts ahead of time, so let them soak for 24 hours in a salt mixture, and it will pull that salt into the center and kind of soften the nuts a little bit. And then I tend to re-roast them, and it sounds like sort of laborious, because you know, then you get that crunch back, because after they've been soaking in salt water, they're a little bit softer. But then
you don't need to roast them. You can actually dehydrate them.
Super nutty. You activate all of those oils in the same way, but then you don't have that kind of, like, bland interior against this, like, overly salty exterior.
While we're listening, I'm going to scoop out
to kind of add a textural component to dishes. So,
the pumpkin.
You know, if you are doing something like
a few days ago.
roasted sweet potatoes as opposed to, like, a sweet potato casserole.
But here's some advice: do not leave your pumpkin seeds on your wood board because it will mold the board. This was only on there like a day or something, and it molded the board. So don't do that.
Like the sweetness and the sourness, and then the crunchiness and the saltiness of the nuts. It adds a really nice textural difference, because otherwise it's, like, sort of just all soft. Like, a lot of Thanksgiving is just, you know, you don't really need to chew it, and so I think if you put some chew in, that can be really good. And then my other thing to do with it is I'm a big sucker for taking quote unquote Midwestern classics and updating them with scratch ingredients. So I really like doing a version of a green bean casserole that is just, you know, lightly steamed green beans.
And you can see my unicorn.
A really flavorful mixture over the top. And more people are avoiding.
I'm going to try this two ways. I'm going to try it with
mushrooms and then adding chestnuts
spoon and with
as well
knife.
as some
Let's see which
acidity
way
from
works
either
better
the
for me.
balsamic vinegar. You could do some citrus. Chestnut and orange goes really well together, so you could do a little bit of orange zest, olive oil, and then a bunch of herbs, and you could do something like fried sage and chestnut really love each other, a little bit of rosemary, something like that. And then you're just spooning that kind of crunchy, nutty, tangy, olive oily mushroom and nut mixture over the green beans, and it just feels like, again, bright and light and not something that's bogged down by gloppy cream of mushroom business.
Yeah, I mean, I do love a gloppy cream of mushroom business, but that sounds amazing. Actually, let me ask you a question about chestnuts. When you get them whole, there's this whole thing where you have to, like, score them and then roast them, or some people boil them and steam them, and then you peel them. The peeling can be tedious, and sometimes it sticks. It can be a whole thing, and
a whole thing, indeed.
A wonderful ritual if it's in your, in your wheelhouse. But if you just want to have a chestnut in a dish, sometimes you can buy them, like, sort of prep for eating. The texture I find to be sometimes rubbery. Is that just a matter of quality and what you're buying, or can you?
It's because you're not eating them fresh.
I mean, my understanding is that probably means that they've gone through a couple of processes to get to you already peeled. And so I find the rubbery ones I tend to make into soup.
Okay.
Because
then so this wasn't super hard to do.
So much that
now we're going to try it with
I can blitz the parts that don't break down, or I can strain them out, and then you get the flavor without that texture. But for getting them out of the shell, I do find that there's that interior skin that can sometimes stick to it, and that usually happens if they've gotten hot and then cooled again. It, like, somehow readheres. So yes, I don't bother with the scoring. I just cut them in half, and then again I soak them in a little bit of salt water.
Are always trying to help us to knit ourselves up.
With a little bit of salt water, so that it gets just like that other kind of flavor with it, and then roast.
I think I'm going to lose more by doing it this way. I think I'm going to
and the skins and shells will kind of peel back. and then I do them in a small enough batch that I can peel them while they're still warm. You can heat them back up again, like if, in the restaurant we'll peel like 50 pounds at a time, which is tedious work. But that's really only an issue if you're cooking at volume in that way or at scale that way. And so if you're doing it at home, it shouldn't be any issue. But yeah, in that way, just by cutting them in half, oftentimes they'll kind of fall out of the skins and the shells on their own. So
you don't have necessarily anything wrong with getting the skin in here too, if it's thoroughly cooked.
It's a little bit less
or if you're putting it into a blender, you would actually want to keep all that goodness.
I mean, the worst thing you can do for Thanksgiving is end up in the emergency.
And even in a soup, it'd be lovely to have that extra color. So you could do that too. I'm just eating mine as a mash, and because I didn't over roast it, it would be too hard.
All that farming you're about to do.
Yeah, amazing work on the
Thank you so much. Thank you, and these recipes sound incredible. We can't wait to try them.
Oh, great.
Thank you. All right, let's go to Jeannie. Hey, Jeannie, happy Thanksgiving.
Let's see what advice we're going to give Jeannie.
How are you?
Let's see if it's any good.
You're great, thanks. Where are you calling from?
I definitely notice a larger amount of good advice coming from the women chefs
Northern
than from the
Michigan,
men chefs.
Central Georgia. Let's do this.
Honestly, I just don't think men get to talk on Thanksgiving.
Of course, the best meal of the year, best entertaining day of the year. And I have worked for years on perfecting my recipes so that they are nostalgic and the traditional that everyone is looking forward to, but also more natural, using whole foods and getting away from some of the processed
Okay, I think I heard this lady before, so they must just be
I got my pecan
replaying
pie
the same
with
one.
corn syrup to maple syrup, and I was really proud of that. But
Okay, so here you can do anything with this.
Is my cornbread dressing. And this is, I took this over when I was 18 or 19 because my mother would put sage sausage in it, and I just like the meat in it. So I took it over as fresh sage. The sticking point on my cornbread dressing is that I still use cream of onion, Campbell's cream of onion, and cream of celery soup in it. And I really love to get away from that. I, of course, make homemade cornbread. I chop up onion, celery, sage, saute those in butter, add spices, salt, pepper, and chicken stock. But I'm hanging on to these cream of Campbell's soup.
Yeah, but
and
there
I
are
really love
organic
if there is some
cream
kind
of
of
soups.
natural alternative that would give the same flavor profile, the same consistency, and a little bit of creaminess.
Can I ask you one question, Jeannie? Is it like a philosophical choice? Is it a nutrition choice, or is it like an aesthetic choice?
Yeah, I do not make Thanksgiving dinner for health because, I mean, to be honest, like, I mean, it's overeating and it's indulgent. So it's more about.
I'm going to mash mine. You can see, though, that it has some nice little tendrils. So if you like butternut squash, but want something a little less sweet, this is a great thing. Pumpkins are kind of sinewy that same way.
By using canned soup.
That can be kind of fun.
No, I get that.
This fell in.
But it's also like, you're already making a massive meal, and you are indulging in nostalgia.
I often like to add sugar and just plain old heavy cream.
So I'm not telling you to not do it.
I'm not probably going to this time because I did quite a bit of that a couple months ago, and you can only have so much heavy cream in your diet, really. I might just even eat this plain. But it's just delicious. It's a really bright flavor. It's not sweet, so if you've never had fresh pumpkin, stay aware. It's not sweet. It might even, because you're expecting it to be sweet or expecting it to be more similar to a spaghetti squash or butternut squash. Just change your expectations a little bit. It doesn't have that residual sugar in it. It does have a residual sugar kind of on the back of your palate, though. So like the aftertaste is sweet. But you can see, if I can get you away from this terrible lighting. It's quite a bright color.
Is that sounds like a
just made about 2 cups.
Bechamel is one of the
amazingly,
other sauces,
and that's only half of the pumpkin. And the pumpkin was about like this, about 6 or 7 inches across, maybe 4 inches high, something like that. And I have another one.
Okay, so I would
that I'll
just take
do
onion and
probably
celery
next
and
week when
sweat
there's more
those down,
space in
make
the
them nice and
fridge.
soft.
That's
Maybe
this
put
size.
something like
This I
some
just got. It
thyme
was a
or some herbs
jack-o'-lantern
Provence or something like that. I also usually put a little bit
being
of
sold at my
nutmeg
natural
and
store,
chili flake
and
in my milk sauces
I think they had
because
sold it for
it gives
God
it
only
that
knows
the
what at the
nutmeg
beginning,
gives
but it
it
was
the
99
warmth
cents by the
and
time I
the
got it.
like,
So it'll probably be drier.
gentleness that you expect from it, but then the chili flake adds a little bit of heat and a little bit of something that kind of perks it up some.
Oh,
And then
you
you'll
just
take
mentioned
some
chili flakes.
flour and just
And you know what that
coat the
means?
vegetables in that flour
I'm
with
actually
some
gonna
butter.
add.
In my memory, or at least how I do it, is equal parts butter and flour. And then you're gonna let that get toasty and brown and cook, so it should smell like cooked flour.
I'm gonna add a little
That's
cayenne
where, you know, like
to
the
my
whole
nut
just
brittle.
that lumpy gravy comes
Since
from,
you
kind of
mentioned
that
chili
uncooked
flakes.
flour business, and it just tastes pasty. So you want to let it go, and then you'll add in your milk. And I usually use a whole milk, and you just whisk it in, and then bring it until it thickens.
Right.
And then I went to cooking school at Ballymaloo under the ever inspiring Dorina Allen, and they did it this way that blew my mind. So hold on to your boots. Dorina would make roux, equal parts butter and flour separately, just in a frying pan, and then would hold it in the fridge. And then she would bring milk up to a scald or whatever you wanted to thicken. You can do it with soups, you can do it with sauces, whatever you want. And then just chunk in the roux and whisk it in. And that way you have total control because you're not locked into a certain amount. It literally blew my mind that this would work in this way.
Why
Because I thought
wouldn't
it
you do
would
that?
just sit as a little ball at the bottom of the
I worry
pot
when
or
all
whatever,
these
but it
famous people
totally works,
don't
and you just
understand
whisk it
basic
in. So
things.
that
Like
might
that's
be
a
a good
basic
way to
thing.
kind of back it out too, so that you can make it the texture that you want for
Of course you would
your
do that.
dressing. Because I don't know what proportion, how much of this soup it normally goes into your dressing. And so if you're just trying to kind of add a little bit of richness, or if that's what's really making it the moisture. I know you're using chicken stock, but is it equal parts chicken stock and
my sugar's
your
definitely
canned soup, or
boiling.
is it more or less
It
of
is
the other?
finally
Then you can kind of just
mostly dissolved.
drop it
Except
in
for
as
this
you
big
need to.
chunk here that I can't
And
seem
then
to.
the nice thing
Oh,
about
that's
those
not a
milk sauces
chunk.
is that
That's
they
the
are great
ginger
for
that I put
leftovers.
in.
And
Oh, for
my
goodness sake.
favorite
Let's see if it smells like
day
ginger.
after Thanksgiving task
It
is
does
that
not,
we take
but
all
that's
of
okay.
the leftovers,
I think I will add some,
a
though.
lot of them, and turn them into pot pies.
Actually,
and so
no, I
any
won't. I'm going to add the
leftover bechamel
cayenne,
milk sauce that you have
and
functions as a binder for the pot
you don't
pies.
want
So you
too
can
many
take your
flavors in there. You're going to
leftover
end up with
turkey and
this,
chunk it up, your leftover roasted
chutney
roots,
brittle,
your leftover mashed potatoes,
which
throw
is not
some,
what I'm going
green
for.
beans, broccoli, whatever you
It would
want,
be
or whatever
fine
you've
if you
got,
were going
maybe
for that, but
cranberries,
that's not what I'm going
and
for.
then bind it together with the milk
Because
sauce.
2 years
And
ago I
then
made
if you've got leftover pie dough, or honestly,
2 gallons of quite nice granola, but it was, or trail mix I should say, but it was turmeric based. And I tell you what, I still can't get it eaten because my body doesn't eat turmeric often. So it's turmeric and black pepper mixture and stuff, and it's tasty, but I just,
so excited.
you only need it so often,
for
and I
years
just don't
trying
need it right
to find
now.
a replacement.
And you know what I do need though?
Or usually some other product.
Scissors. I'll be right back.
That just sounds like a great alternative, and to bring the
This is
flavor
my
in
new
through the onions and the
Cayenne
celery
pepper,
as I'm making the
because
sauce
mine kind of went for
to
cut.
mimic what the cream of soup would do.
And Jeannie, I'll say too, I mean, those sometimes, I think Frances is right. Sometimes those flavors are really nostalgic. I think it's admirable to want to always hone what you want towards perfection. But also, the food is a vehicle
Here we
to
go.
get people together and to kind of have this setting for people to connect. So
If
I
only
certainly
it
hope that
were.
if this isn't
I
your
make food
favorite
for
way of doing
people,
it,
and
that
there's
it
nobody
doesn't,
here right now,
make
as
you
you
feel like
know.
the day is a failure. Because perfect
Last
food
year,
can
I
be
made
good, and it sounds like you've got a
food
good
for my
head
whole
yourself,
neighborhood,
but also,
but
don't
still
push
no one.
yourself over the edge if it will make it harder for you just to be
It
with
is
your
what it
loved ones
is.
too.
Well, I
Okay,
have
this is
yeah,
definitely boiling really
in
nice,
background.
and
There
I'm
you
going
go.
to
If there needed to be called in as backup,
They
can.
stand
see
at
if
the
this
ready.
That is practical if I've ever heard of it.
too
Right.
watery
Well,
or
thank you guys
not.
so much.
Happy
I
Thanksgiving
think
to
it's
you.
still got
Happy
some
Thanksgiving.
Thanks for coming.
reduction to do.
Thank you.
I'm going to
Hey,
do
Emma,
just
this
a
has been
bit.
so much fun. Thanks so much for coming by.
This is
Oh
fresh,
my gosh, thank you for having
fresh
me,
from
and
the
happy
freezer
Thanksgiving.
cayenne, so we just want to use a little bit. Don't want to use a lot. Which is a half teaspoon, which is way more than I'm going to use. I'm just going to use about an eighth of a teaspoon. Pour that in
It's
there.
Kaylee Broussard with KERA News.
Let that mix around a little bit.
Turn and we gather with friends.
Most of what you're going to get out of
we have. You're not just our audience.
cayenne
You're our
is going
neighbors,
to be
our friends. Your engagement
fat
and
soluble.
support
There's no
bring
fat
life
in
to our
there yet.
stories
So
and depth to our
most of
reporting.
that is not going to
So
do
here's
the
to
thing.
you for listening,
It's not
for
gonna
caring,
really
for being a part of the KERA
get all the
News
way
family.
through.
Thank you for making us a part of your world.
Although it
Stay
may make it
warm,
impossible
stay
to breathe in
thankful,
here.
and
Let's see.
stay with us on 90.1 KERA News.
Nope, not yet.
Support
That's
for KERA News
Okay, the
comes
reason
from
I keep taking
Texas
it off the
Mutual,
fire
Workers' Compensation Insurance Company,
is because
committed to
since it is
providing
boiling at
support to
this point,
nonprofits striving to
I
bring
can't tell
positive
as
change
much
to working families and Texas
what the
communities.
quantity
More
is.
at
I think this is about right. I don't know if you can see
texasmutual.com/community.
it. I think
Children's
that's
Health,
back to
where
about
they
a
believe in the
cup and a
magic
half.
of the season.
So
Team
now
members,
I'm
donors,
going
and volunteers
to
strive to bring hope and inspiration to children
remove
and
it.
families. You can learn
And
more
I
at
know people
bringmagictochildrens.com.
baking soda.
Happy Thanksgiving! I'm Brandon Slam, and you're listening to the Splendid Tables Turkey Confidential from American
do
Public
that.
Media. Turkey Confidential is supported by Total Wine and More,
But
helping shoppers
I'll
find
do a little
the best
bit.
deals for everyone.
Oh, dang it. I already have baking soda out.
Total Wine and More helps shoppers find what they love what they find.
I need this out.
Drink responsibly.
Okay,
We are spending
once
this hour
you're
with
off
you
heat,
every year on this day.
only once you're off heat, add your little bit
And
of
as usual, we have
alcohol
amazing
here.
help. Let me introduce you to
A
our
little
next
bit of
guest,
vanilla.
the living ray of sunshine herself,
About a half
Jocelyn
teaspoon.
Delk Adams. A Southern
And
baker extraordinaire, she named her website grandbabycakes.com, but she
about
is through and through too. A
a
regular on the Today Show,
about a
she's
half
the author of the
teaspoon
cookbook Everyday Trend. Hey Jocelyn, happy Thanksgiving to you.
baking
Happy
soda.
Thanksgiving! How you doing?
All.
I am great and better now
All
that
we're
I'm
doing there. We're gonna mix
the
that
musical
in.
lilt of your voice. Usually
Well,
you just
tis the
I
season,
actually
right?
don't like peanut
You
brittle with
live in my
holes in
phone.
it, like
But now
little
it's nice to
foamy
hear you
bits,
sing
which
it
I
to
think
me.
is what the
Yes,
what that
absolutely.
does.
I'm excited to hear.
Right on. So
Since I did
actually, I want to
vanilla,
ask you a question because I know you grew up in Chicago,
I'm gonna
but
do
you told me earlier
the
that your
peanuts.
Thanksgivings, the time growing up
and
mostly
then you
just
gotta
me,
move
right?
fast here
Yeah.
because
Are
this
with your
is
grandparents
all
in
gonna
Winona, Mississippi. So
Yes, a far cry from Chicago.
just
let
a
me
wee
tell you.
bit.
Just a very
bit.
small town in Mississippi. You know, not a lot there. It's basically when you
It's a
go,
great
you are
idea
going to
to,
spend all of your time with family because there's not a lot to do. And so,
To roast your
what
nuts
do you mean,
ahead of
slam
time.
Northern
I roasted my nuts a little bit,
It was like the way for us to be like, okay, there's nothing.
but they
but
were
family
dry
time.
roasted
Sure,
very, very,
what we
very
need to
slow.
focus
In
on,
this
is
case,
what we
I
need to prioritize. And I actually
did I
love
sprout
it.
these? No, I didn't sprout these. I did sprout the almonds. These come from a farm raw, and then I roast them.
Time with family.
My heart's
It actually
content.
made me pretty grateful.
I think in this case, I only had about a cup of
I
peanuts.
would say we would probably have about
In addition to that
13
big
maybe 14 family
bunch of
members
it.
total
I
that
think I'm
would
gonna put a
go,
little
and we
bit
would all be in this small
of the
house
almonds
and
in
just
here.
spending time together.
And they're already kind of cut up. They're not whole almonds.
Okay,
Which is
let's
fine,
not
I don't care.
we do not have enough tables. Okay, we would always joke. We're like, are more people showing up? Like, why do we have so much food? We would literally have like 2 turkeys,
The
one
recipes
fried,
kind of
one
suggest
roasted.
about equal parts
We
sugar
would
and
have,
nuts.
yes, we.
I think in my case,
yams,
I'm going
there's
to do a little bit more
potatoes,
nuts
there's greens, there's green
than
beans, potatoes, there's baked potatoes, there's literally homemade
sugar.
rolls. My big mama's
And now we
homemade
are
rolls,
kind of back
cornbread dressing,
up to the
pork,
oil here.
gravy, all of it, and at least maybe close to 10
Because
times,
if you're
maybe
really going
all
for something
assorted
that's
desserts too.
a little less dessert and a little more like good for you, you could do this, you know, for recipes for kids.
Right. We're like, are
It's
we
good to
making plates for more
do
people?
that.
Like, what is happening? It's really insane. But we go big or we go home. That's how we play Thanksgiving.
For sure,
Mhm.
for sure. I gotta talk to you about the option of turkey, fried or roast.
Yeah.
How does
Oh,
that
no,
start?
it's not an option. You have both.
Okay. I can't really smell the vanilla.
No, but I mean, okay, but why are
Now
there
that I have
both
almonds in
types?
here,
Was someone like at one
I'm
point
gonna add a
like, I
little.
gotta have it this way? Someone else, I
You
gotta have
know,
it that way.
not
Maybe
necessarily. I
this
think we just
donate.
like the diversity
That's
of
true.
having both available. Like my dad is like the turkey fryer, so he's in charge of that every single year, and you know that's become like definitely a mainstay, and it's a different flavor profile too because it's more Cajun spiced. It's got, you know, more of a kick than the traditional roasted turkey. So we kind of like having like the difference in
Okay,
flavors.
now we do a little bit of the cream.
It's 13 people.
We're gonna
which
let
is
it
not,
cool
it's like
for
a nice
just a
number of
Not even
people.
all of
But
it. We have short ribs too.
I've done this with goat milk
You
too.
know,
It's
we
right
have,
with goat
yeah,
milk.
we go in lamb shanks. It's ridiculous. Mac and cheese, and I can't even believe I didn't say the mac and cheese. In fact, there's like an African American proverb shirt that says the mac and cheese is more important than the turkey.
is it okay? The mac and cheese. Is it like one person's job to make mac and cheese, and that person, like, you need to keep that person upright that day because they're making the mac and cheese? That kind of vibe.
It's actually a collaborative effort at this
Oh,
point.
cool.
Like I know. So there's like a collaboration in terms of, hey, are we going with this cheese like this year? Are we going to add this additional cheese to the mix? You know,
Okay.
yeah, let's make the sauce a little thicker. Like there's opinions galore
Okay,
in the
I added more
process of
cayenne.
making it until it gets into the oven.
Oh, right on.
I'm having
Oh,
lots of
it's like
flashbacks
got
as
it.
we're talking about mac and cheese.
Mima's mac
We
and
don't do
cheese.
that in my
Not
family,
at all.
You play with
We
it.
kind of play it by
really
ear.
at all.
I love
But
that there's some things that don't change.
I grew up in
Absolutely.
We have a
an
caller.
African American church, and then I
From
cooked
Washington,
one of
D.C.
my
Hey,
first
Evan,
places.
happy
The
Thanksgiving.
place where I have my cooking award from actually is from a
Okay. What's going
kind of
on?
what they called New American Soul Food joint.
Hypothetically,
Back when
suppose,
fusion
you were
was a new thing,
instructed to take a turkey out of
be
the freezer.
probably called cultural appropriation now,
Not
correctly so.
out of the freezer, but frozen, and it's 5 hours till dinner.
Okay.
Okay,
Dear Lord.
I'm pouring this in here.
Hypothetically,
This is like very serious business. I added a little bit of whipping
I have to tell you,
cream,
This was okay.
just
so
a
when I
little bit.
started
We're gonna see
doing,
if it was worth it or not.
Split the table. Like, I was so excited to do.
Okay,
this
I'm going
episode
to-
And you know, in my mind, it was.
If you
always
can,
gonna be,
you want to
this
put
is the day
this
when people
sugar
desperately-
pan straight into the water
yeah.
What
so
do I
that
do?
it will
What do I do?
go ahead
No,
and
we
dissolve
never
for you.
actually got that call, so I'm glad. So I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
because you don't really want it crusty later. Okay, and I have to get this plugged in because of the battery
I've been saying it all those
situation.
years,